You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
Time now to talk politics with our esteemed roundtable guest. Joining me is Republican Leon Jones, Democrat Beth Gorman. She was a nominee for Secretary of State for the Democrats. You were an Attorney General candidate in the primaries. Are you both recovered from the campaign trail? It's my first question to you.
That's a great question, and I'm still getting that question. And this last weekend I was home for round one of Thanksgiving, hometown, and I fell asleep twice on two different occasions. So I'm almost back.
All right, Leon.
I think I'm pretty much back. I'm okay. My voice is still recovering, it seems like, but I think I'm good. I'm rested.
Fun to be on the campaign trail, though. It's one of those lifetime experiences that you will walk away with friends you'll keep for the rest of your life. And
Absolutely.
I know it's been a positive experience, even though the outcomes didn't come
That's right.
as much as you wanted. Leon, I'm coming to you first. We're going to talk some national politics first. Donald Trump back in the race for 2024 for president.
Yes,
is Trump good or bad for the Republican brand?
You know, Roby, I think that's a good question. And I think if Donald Trump, well, I'll tell you one thing. Lindsey Graham said it the other night. He said if Donald Trump spoke always like he did at his announcement speech, then he'd win the nomination. But I think the problem is Donald Trump won't speak like that. And so Donald Trump has been a polarizing figure, of course, in our national politics and Republican primaries and the Republican Party. And I think at the end of the day, it's time to move on.
Yeah. Annabeth, is Trump good or bad for the Democrats?
So I think that Trump is good for the Democrats, but he's bad for America, right? I think that his brand of politics has been so divisive that it's really fracturing the American democracy as we know it, the two-party system. And the extreme rhetoric that we hear from him on stage giving speeches, it's starting to really disenfranchise middle-of-the-road Americans. And this is what we saw with what failed to be the red tsunami in the congressional midterms. And I think that Democrats have a real opportunity to stand up and reach out to middle-of-the-road Americans if we can only come up with good policy and good champions for those policies.
Well, we got divided government up in Congress now going into this next session, so we'll see what happens there. So Annabeth, I'll come to you first on this one. Nancy Pelosi announces she's not going to be part of the leadership going forward in the next Congress. How does that set the stage for a new generation of leadership for Democrats, and what do you kind of think her legacy is?
Well, you know, I'm not an academic, so I'm going to leave it up to the academics to really give the attention that her tenure in her leadership deserves as a speaker. But I will say that you don't have that job for that long without being a tough lady.
Pretty good.
And pretty good
right.
at pretty good at your job, nonetheless. Yeah. But what a leader that would step aside and usher in the next generation of leaders, because we're ready for it. America is in desperate need of new thought leaders, new ideas. And so I really applaud her for stepping back now when really we've got to deepen our bench and give someone else the opportunity to lead our party forward.
I had Congressman Womack on the show last week, Leon, and he actually spoke pretty complimentary of Nancy Pelosi because he said, but she's been a worthy adversary. She's whipped us many times, I think was if I were to boil it down there. But she has obviously been the poster child for Republicans to be able to browbeat Democrats. Who's the next boogeyman for Republicans if she's off the scene?
Well, you know, that is one of the things that the Republicans have to think about now, right? Because Nancy Pelosi is not there. I think Richard Nixon said it best. You don't have old Tricky Dick to knock around anymore, right? And so the Republicans don't have Nancy Pelosi anymore. So who will be their boogeyman? Is it policy? Is it a person? Is it a group of people? I don't know. But I think that the new leadership, I think they announced Hakeem Jeffries might be the new minority leader. I don't know if he is going to be their boogeyman because he seems to be pretty level-headed. I don't know if he's necessarily moderate, but I think he's pretty level-headed, and I think he's probably easy to work with. And so you got this new generation of Democrats that are coming into leadership positions, and I think that it's going to be difficult for the Republicans to do so. But they do have the Democrat policies to beat up on, so they've probably got enough.
Yeah, and you got Kevin McCarthy on the Republican side. He'll be the new pinata for the Democrats there, although Trump will still be on the scene for that. All right. The Arkansas legislative session starts in January. I think this is going to be defined by some things in the education space more than anything else, based on some conversations that I've had. What's the biggest thing that you feel like needs to be done on the education front?
I think that Arkansas legislators need to talk to Arkansas teachers. I think that if we're going to solve the quagmire, which is Arkansas education crisis, that we should actually talk to the experts. Look, when I need accounting advice, I go talk to an accounting. When I need legal advice, I speak to a lawyer. When I need health advice, I go to a doctor. So it would follow, logically, that if I need education advice, I would go speak to a public servant educator in Arkansas. And why we're not speaking to our teachers and amplifying their voices is a true travesty at this point. Looking into this session, and truly, what would it look like if it was a law that every Arkansas legislator had to go be a teacher for a day? Literally, had to go stand in front of a classroom, had to stand in front of teachers.
I know some of those legislators, Annabeth, I'm not sure I want them to be at the head of a classroom. They're just,
I'm just
I love
saying,
y'all, but
I'm
just kidding. So.
I'm just saying, I think that really, we should really be talking about amplifying this profession, and one way to do it is to pay them. But if we want Arkansas children reading, we have to have good Arkansas teachers.
Yep. All right. She's talking about walking a mile in someone's shoes. It sounds like your brother might have done that a time or two.
Well, you'll have to talk to him about that.
Yeah,
but I will say,
what do you think needs to be done on the education?
Well, and that's a good question, because I'm a former educator. My mother's a former educator, and so I agree with her 100%. Talking to the people who are on the front lines matters. And if you can get an opportunity to go and talk with them, sit with them in their classroom and find out what they're thinking, they will tell you what they're thinking. And it's not just about the money. Most teachers don't go into the classroom for the money because they know they're not going to get rich. They go in to enrich themselves and the people that they're touching every single day. And they have the requisite knowledge to know what we need to be teaching, how we need to be teaching, and when we need to be teaching.
But teacher pay needs to get done. There needs to be
100%.
an improvement in
100%.
teacher pay and starting salaries.
100%.
I do think this legislature will tackle that.
Yes.
I think that'll be one of the biggest things that they do. It's already kind of built into the budget, and I think there's consensus for that. Are we indoctrinating kids in public schools? This is something that we've heard this rhetoric all through the campaign season, Leon.
I can't speak to now because I haven't been a student for many, many years, but I can say that my students, my children who've gone through public schools and are in public schools were not indoctrinated.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think our teachers are doing an excellent job. I think we need to support them, we need to hold them up. We do need to pay them, but we need to listen to them.
Yeah. I don't even know what this indoctrination
No,
is.
and
so,
I think you can look at our statewide elections, right? I mean, we are a conservative state, okay, and our public schools are localized across our state.
Right.
So they're reflecting of their populations already. So no, there's not indoctrination. I mean, if there's indoctrination, it's reflecting local feelings and policies right now.
Sometimes the legislature has to solve problems that don't exist. That's a news flash for some people out there. All right, I'm going to let you all pick one topic in the next legislative session that you think needs to be dealt with or prevented. We can go either way on that. Annabeth, I'm going to come to you first.
Dealt with or prevented. So, I think it's like what keeps me up at night is misguided thoughts of manifest destiny by a few legislators, right? And that they're going to bring in what they perceive as solutions to problems that are non-existent in our state. We've got real problems in our state. We've got a population of people that we need to get prepared for the future of our workforce. So as an advocate for women's economic security, I want to see attention given to that. I mean, to truly our workforce in now 10, 15, 20 years, I don't want to see grandstanding from a few that using the right keywords and phrases, people just kind of nod their head and say, okay, but secretly are like, oh, that's still bad for our state. Let's put together some good policies this session. I'd absolutely hope that addressing teacher pay is one of them.
All right, Leon, what do you think needs to happen in this legislative session, or what do you think doesn't need to happen in this legislative session?
Well, I think the legislature dodged a bullet when issue 4 didn't pass. And so I think that they need to get out in front of that. We have medical marijuana here in this state. I think 39 of the 50 states have some form of legalized marijuana. And I think Arkansas, the legislature have an opportunity now to get out in front of it, and they need to do so, I think that's probably one of the things. And then I think the other piece
You
is,
think this legislature with 82 Republicans in it in the House and 29 in the Senate are going to adopt recreational marijuana?
I didn't say adopt it, I said get out in front of it.
Okay.
Whatever that means to them, right? Because if they don't, then the citizens are going to bring it back up. It's coming back up.
It's coming back up, I assure you
Yes,
that. So,
it's
yeah.
definitely coming back up. And so they need to figure out what are they going to do to deal with that. And I think that, you know, whether it's passing legislation now or whether it's putting something in place so if legislation is passed that they can, because listen, I'm all for limited government, but there has to be some checks and balances. You know, we can't let the citizenry go out and say just marijuana for everybody, right? But we have to have the legislature there to put some checks and balances on it. So I think they need to look at that. And I think Representative Gazaway and I think Senator Gilmore just introduced a shell bill that's going to tackle parole. I think that's something that they have to do, because if we don't get that in line, we're going to continue to see us building more prisons.
Yep.
And I think we need to build more libraries than we do prisons.
All right, 30 seconds left, and so this will be a yes or no question for both of you. Might you consider running for office again?
Possibly.
Leon.
I will consider it.
All right. Drafted, you might serve. If not, you may decline. I can't remember the quote there exactly. Anna Beth Gorman, Leon Jones, thank you both so much. Attorney Leon Jones, head of the Women's Foundation of Arkansas.
Thank
Anna
you.
Beth Gorman, thank y'all both very much for being here.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Great.
We're back to wrap up right after this.